Welcome back to This is Baseball. My name is Brandon Johnson. We have 10 games left, folks, in 2025. And I'm going to start out with the Kansas City Royals because it is time to officially wave the white flag, close the chapter on the 2025 Kansas City Royals. And you know what? They came up short, but it is September 17th, and we had an interest in them, and they were in it for most of the season. As I record this podcast, they are currently 7 games back. They have won 3 of their last 10 games and have just gone the wrong way. We had been leading up to this Royals-Mariners series, and this was going to be what kind of made or break the Royals' postseason hopes. Problem is, the Royals went in the opposite direction, and the Mariners got really hot. They've won 10 straight. They're actually ahead of the Houston Astros and overtook them in the AL West standing. So the Mariners currently hold a division if the season ended today. And the Royals played the Mariners last night in that first game of the series, and Mariners pretty much just put the Royals out of their misery. They took any sort of thrill out of the series fairly early. It was 5-0 really before you could blink, and Mariners ended up winning that first game by a score of 12-5. And here we stand with 10 games left. You are 7 games out, as I said. If you're the Kansas City Royals, you're not making up 7 games over a 10-game stretch. It's not happening. But let's just kind of talk about the 2025 Royals. We come into 2025 amped up as a fan base because of the success that they had in 2024. They were a wild card team. They won a wild card series. They made it to the division round. They ended up losing to the Yankees. And we had a lot of optimism about this 2025 team. The pitching ended up basically repeating what they did last year. They had been a top 5 pitching staff for much of the year. A lot of the people that had great seasons kind of picked up where they left off. Significantly more injury issues this year on the pitching staff. Cole Reagans has missed a chunk of time. Seth Lugo has been on the IL. Michael Wacha's missed time. And with that, though, we have been able to see some players such as Noah Cameron step up and show that he is a bona fide starter in this league, and he's going to be an asset to the Royals for a long time. And I still think heading into 2026, we're going to have a great pitching staff again. A lot of the people that are here are going to be here next year, and you're going to kind of keep the band together heading into next season. The problem with this year was the offense. The offense was basically a bottom 5 offense for most of the season in all major categories. They were down there at the bottom with the likes of the Colorado Rockies, Chicago White Sox, and Pittsburgh Pirates. Difference between the Royals and those teams is the Royals were contenders and the teams that I just mentioned weren't. And you look at it and you go, wow, the pitching staff really carried this Kansas City Royals team through 2025. And there was probably a 6-week stretch in 2025, not consecutively, but there was a stretch in kind of late May, early June where the Royals went on a run, got back over 500, and were back in the chase. Then had an absolutely horrendous June where they won one single game at home, and you could really look at the month of June and go, that's the difference between this team being a playoff team and being at home in October. Got swept by the A's at home that month. But you kind of picked it up coming out of the All-Star break in July. Salvador Perez got going. Vinny Pasquantino while he had a slow month of April, he was still one of the hottest players in baseball. Bobby Witt Jr. was great. Michael Garcia was great. And you have all of that. And while the offense wasn't good this season, you have the optimism that next season Salvi maybe isn't going to get off to as slow of a start. And Bobby Witt Jr. is going to continue to be amazing. He's shown for the fourth year in a row that he's going to hit 20 home runs and steal 30 bags. That's just what he does. He's going to be a Gold Glove contender. Vinny Pasquantino, fully healthy season, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs. Last season, he had like 97 RBIs going into September. So who knows what he would have finished with if he didn't get injured. Salvador Perez, being kind of the heart and soul of this team, hit some big milestones this past week. His 300th career home run and his 1,000th career RBI. He's like 16 home runs away from being the Kansas City Royals leader in career home runs, which would pass George Brett. George Brett has 317. Salvador Perez has hit, I think, 301 home runs now, so he's getting there. There's a conversation to be had about Salvador Perez. Is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not? That's something we can talk about in the offseason. I've kind of given my piece there, but that conversation with these milestones that he's hit has kind of made those conversations from a national standpoint heat back up. Now, I look at this Royals team in 2025, and I go back to the 2010s, 2011, 2012, 13, 14, 15, right? And I am very optimistic about the future of the Kansas City Royals, right? I've said it a lot. I think that this ownership that the Royals have in John Sherman, he is not going to let this team be a team that has 2 competitive seasons and then is just a 100-game loser for a decade before they're even thinking about being competitive again. I think that those days are over where the Royals are just going to be basement dwellers for most of their existence are gone. I think we are going to be at a point where the Royals are going to be in it until mid-September. There's going to be seasons where I think they make it. Maybe they break through and win a division next year, or they get in and they're the final wildcard spot, or they get all the way to where they are right now, or maybe even a week further and they get eliminated. But the point is, I think from here on out, outside of maybe a season here and there, the Royals are going to be a team that we can pay attention to through the start of football season, right? Where I'm thinking of the 2000s where they're 100 losses, and it's just, you're like, okay, well, what's even the point? And even post 2015, 2016, 2017, somewhat competitive, but 2018 through 2023, the Royals basically straight up told us, yeah, we're going to be pretty bad. Just hang with us and we will get it figured out. And that's kind of a miserable spot to be as a fan base when your ownership and front office are like, yeah, we're going to lose 100 games. And I don't know if this current regime is going to have that mindset. And that's what I like. I think they've already done some things that make me look at this team differently than I did with the previous ownership. Obviously, extending Bobby Witt Jr. through at least 2030 and potentially beyond if he wants to be here. I don't know if the previous front office and ownership would have tried to do that. Seth Lugo getting extended, while Seth Lugo, since he signed his extension, has been an overall negative for the Kansas City Royals. I think that the previous front office would have traded Seth Lugo to get something in return. And the Royals said, you know what? No, we like him. He's kind of a cornerstone of our rotation. We'd like to have him be part of that in the future. And I respect that. And I think that obviously Seth Lugo was injured and he was supposed to make the start tomorrow. It doesn't sound like he's going to, but I'm sure he'll make one more start this year. But I believe he'll be back in better next year. They've made trades for players like Cole Reagans, and you see what he's become. They made trades for they get Noah Cameron, and you're like, okay, sure, and he's been phenomenal. You go and get these guys from San Diego to put in your rotation. They've been mostly good. And yeah, maybe they missed on how they handled the outfield this season. I was going from 2024 to 2025. I think one of the first things I said in the offseason was the Royals have to do something with their corner outfield spots. MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe can't work. And that's exactly who they started the season with, was MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe. I understand wanting to give MJ Melendez a chance. He's in your system. You brought him here. You want him to work. Hunter Renfroe had a bad season last year. You tried to make a few moves, couldn't get it to work, and ended up signing Hunter Renfroe instead, and he was gone before June. I think that set you back. Jack Caglione, while I didn't have any issues with them bringing him up in June, it was obvious that he was up here too early, even though he was absolutely smoking AA and AAA pitching. He needed more time. And I think while he was injured, he spent time away. He's been much better since he came back. And I have a lot of optimism that he's going to be really good in his second season. And you pair, hopefully, a much improved Jack Caglione with Vinny Pasquantino, Michael Garcia, a better Jonathan India, hopefully, obviously Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez. I think that there's a chance that Mike Yastrzemski comes back on a short-term deal. He's been an overall positive for the Royals, and I think that he'd love to be here. I think the Royals would want to have him here as well. And I'm saying all this because I don't think, oh, well, it was a good 2-year run. Let's go. No, I think that this is potentially just the beginning of what's to come, where next year the Royals are going to be really good for a few reasons. One, this is a really important offseason, and I think that they're going to plug a lot of the holes that they have, specifically with that outfield. I would be shocked if they don't make a change at hitting coach and remove Alex Zumwalt. The offense has been the huge negative this season. They're just not getting results. They're not scoring. They're not driving in runs with runners in scoring position. And I think they need a change of philosophy at the major league level. So I think that'll be, or it should be, one of the first moves that the Royals make this offseason. But we'll talk about that more coming up in the offseason in November. But now let's finish the season and kind of look who is where in the standings. So let's check that out real quick. So let's look at our division leaders in the American League real quick. So still on top of the American League East division, Toronto Blue Jays. They are 5 games ahead of the New York Yankees. In the AL Central, Detroit Tigers are in first there. They're 5.5 games ahead of Cleveland. Cleveland's trying to make it interesting a little bit with Detroit. It's, I think, a little too late. Seattle, I just talked about it. They are now 83 and 68. They're a half game ahead of the Houston Astros. They are winners of 10 straight. So they are going to be putting the pedal to the metal. I have been trying to write the Mariners off for basically the entire season. I think it's official that I was wrong, and it'd be kind of fun to see them go on a little run in the postseason because it's been so long since they've really done anything effective in the playoffs. So good for them. Kyle Riley is having an MVP season. If he doesn't win an MVP season, I think it'd be a shame. He'd lose it to Aaron Judge, if anything, but he's making history. He just broke Mickey Mantle's record and hit his 55th home run, which makes Kyle Riley the career leader for home runs by a switch hitter in a single season. And he could potentially still beat the Aaron Judge, Roger Maris record and be the American League single season home run record. I believe he'd have to hit 63 to break that because Aaron Judge hit 62. Roger Maris had 61 before that. But in the wild card, it is really a 5-team race in the wild card. New York Yankees hold the top spot. Houston Astros hold the second spot. Boston has the third spot. Cleveland's 2.5 behind, and the Rangers are 3.5 back. Like I said, Royals 7 out of the wild card now. They are 1 game under 500 and firmly done. Now, over to the National League. Phillies are the National League East leaders. They have clinched the National League East, 12.5 games ahead of the New York Mets. And Milwaukee Brewers, 92 and 59. They're 5 games ahead of the Cubs. They've clinched a playoff spot. Cubs have a chance to clinch a playoff spot today. Dodgers are leading the National League West. They are 2 games ahead of the Padres. And last time we talked, the National League wildcard was pretty much set in stone almost. It wasn't very interesting. It was the teams just outside the wild card were like 5 games back, I believe. But Cubs hold the first wild card spot. Padres hold the second spot. The New York Mets hold the third spot. They are 2-8 over the last 10. They've been really bad recently. Been kind of in a free fall, which is why the National League wildcard race is so close now. Diamondbacks are 1.5 games out, and the Cincinnati Reds and San Francisco Giants are 3 out. Remember, we have about 10-ish to play, give or take. So a lot of this is really going to come down to the wire, which is absolutely what you want if you are Major League Baseball. It's what you want if you're a fan. And we've got a pretty awesome ride coming up over the next week and a half until the end of the season. So we will come back next week. Next week will be the final show of the 2025 regular season, and then we will be back after that discussing the final weekend of the regular season and talking postseason and wildcard series. So I will see you next week.